So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where war does not exist. An interesting little mashup we got going on now. So my videos are always about war. There's always a war scenario happening in these videos. But I was thinking about ideas and, like what if the opposite happened for once? What if there was no war? So we'll be taking a look at what the world would look like if there was no war. And that's coming from like modern day to present. So of course all the past wars are still going to have to happen to get these modern day borders. But there will be no future wars. We'll see how the world adapts to that, how it changes, what relations look like, economies, population, so on and so forth. And yeah, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, leave a comment with some video ideas, any suggestions you have, anything like that. Super appreciated by me. And let's go ahead and jump straight into this scenario. All right, so war is banned. The UN finally does its thing, and it bans any kind of warfare. It involves conventional warfare, air, sea, land, just nuclear. There's no war. You're not allowed to do that anymore. And while the United Nations basically becomes like the sole world power-ish kind of thing, because a lot of countries are going to lose like their ability to, I guess, represent themselves. Does that make any sense? Basically, a country exists because it's ruled by a person and they can protect themselves from other countries. But if other countries aren't really a threat, it kind of becomes like this weird kind of limbo thing. But anyway, yeah, once again, UN becomes the sole ruling organization of the world, and pretty much every single entity becomes a member of the UN. So places like Palestine, that becomes a member of the UN because there's no threat of war from Israel anymore. Kosovo becomes a UN member, and Taiwan does. And this might shake up world relations a little bit, but no one could do anything about it because war has been banned. We see organizations like NATO completely collapse because it serves no real purpose anymore. NATO is it's not solely a military alliance because there's some economic factors, but it mostly is just a military alliance. So that part of it is dead. And essentially NATO is disbanded, CSTOs is disbanded. And instead we see the creation of multiple economical unions between different countries in the world. So our first organization being created, or the first economical organization being created, is the Atlantic Economic Union, or the AEU, between the United States, Canada, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdom. This is probably the most powerful economical organization the world has right now because it's, well, the only economical organization in the world. Over here in East Asia, we see another economical alliance being created, very similar to that of the US's, but this one includes a lot of countries. China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, North Korea, Pakistan, just to name a few. There's also Myanmar and Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Kyrgyzstan. And this is kind of like the counter to the West, or well, not the West, but the AEU. It's just the Chinese Economical League, or the CEL. We also see a North African / Arabic economical league come over here, just the Arab League basically. Less members though. And remember, these leagues are not military, they are solely economical because war is over. And also another thing that mentioned about war being over is that there's no longer any civil wars. So Somalia is fine now. Sudan and South Sudan, or I actually know more so, Sudan is fine. Myanmar's coup is over. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is solved. Russia and Ukraine are no longer duking it out. Russia's left South Ossetia and Abkhazia and any other military areas that have compromised. Same goes for every other country. But yeah, these are our three main economical alliances. And of course, over the years, they're all going to grow. So Portugal will join the AEU, as well as the Benelux. All of Scandinavia ends up joining it, as well as Denmark. The Baltics are quick to join, as well as Poland, Czechia, Austria, Slovenia. And really, the AEU is basically becoming a staple of Western economics. Ireland joins it eventually, and now we have a majority of Europe inside of this alliance. And with war no longer being a thing, it is likely that relations between countries start to become better. So the West and Russia would most likely become on better terms. There could be economic rivalries, like between the AEU and the Chinese Economical League, but that kind of thing can be counterbalanced with the AEU partnering up with a new league over here in East Asia, the East Asian Economical Alliance. This one's between Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, and Vietnam. We also see countries like Malaysia join in on this alliance. More countries are interested in joining the Purple Alliance, this time being Croatia and Slovakia. We also have Albania joining. Greece becomes a member, as well as Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova. North Macedonia joins, as well as Montenegro and Bosnia-Herzegovina and Kosovo. Hungary joins, and finally, so does Ukraine. So basically, Europe has partnered up with America. Now, of course, there could be some strenuous relations between the US and some of these countries over here due to some past conflicts and stuff, but a majority of these guys down here were NATO members, aside from Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina, but both of these countries have partnership with NATO, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that they would join this economical alliance. Now, Serbia has held out from joining this league, because Serbia is kind of like a stick in the mud over here. And do remember I said that relations most likely will be improved, so Serbia could improve relations with the West, but due to the situation with Kosovo becoming an official country, it is unlikely that they would join a side that has them in it. And breaking news, Switzerland just joined the economical alliance. It is going down over here in Europe. So the AEU has now expressed itself as more of not just an Atlantic League, but has offered this membership to members across the world. And very quickly, there are a few countries who seek to join the AEU. These include Mexico, Jamaica, Panama and Costa Rica, Colombia, Chile, Uruguay, Ecuador, Morocco, Australia and New Zealand, and finally Israel. So, with the AEU now expanding worldwide, it can probably get a rename. Instead of the Atlantic Economical Union, it will probably just be like the World Economical Union, so the WEU. Global influence has reached its max here, and the Chinese Expansion Economical League is not a fan of this. And war is gone though, so they're not going to fight any wars about it, but they will go ahead and do their best attempt in countering it. So they will add Iran to their economical alliance, as well as the rest of Central Asia and Afghanistan. They pick up a pretty big one in Indonesia, and some of these Eastern African countries start to show interest, like Ethiopia and Yemen. Madagascar will join it, and so will Sri Lanka. And with the growing influence of these large world economical alliances, which are partly controlled by world powers like the United States and China, the Middle East is kind of sandwiched in between all of that, and these countries will start making their decisions, which most of them will go over to the North African Union. So Syria and Iraq join, and Turkey is considering it, but they actually have a lot of options because Turkey kind of plays all the cards in real life. They're friends with NATO, they're friends with a lot of African countries, and they're friends with China. Well, sort of. They kind of mediate tensions, especially with Russia and Ukraine right now. So they really could join any alliance they wanted to. For now, though, we're going to leave them as is. We have Georgia joining in on the purple team, as well as Armenia. And that will probably drive Turkey away from joining this alliance. But once again, we'll see as we get there. Now, as you'll notice, Africa is mostly left alone. But if we do know with real life, there are a lot of countries over here that have fairly good relations with the United States, such as Kenya, Uganda as well. South Sudan more so would join just because, Sudan, we don't like them. But once again, there's no war, so might as well, fix our relations, right? But they're still going to end up joining the purple, with Tanzania join it, as well as Mozambique, and even South Africa, which is a pretty big one. Lesotho and Eswatini go ahead and merge with South Africa, which is our first union of this video. That's right, there will be unions in this video, we just haven't gone there yet. And that's because these are like the opening stages of no more war. At first, yeah, economical alliances would be very, very widespread because that's the only kind of alliance you can have. In North Africa, more and more countries start to join in on the green team until essentially what we have is the modern Arab League. But now we have yet another alliance popping up, this time in South America, with Brazil creating their own economical alliance. They get a lot of remaining countries in South America that join it, some countries that are fairly neutral. But we do actually have Argentina going ahead and joining in on the Purple Alliance. Nicaragua joins in on China's alliance, as well as Venezuela. And as we can see, China has gone ahead and exerted its influence across the world, so now they are a global organization as well as the United States. And interestingly enough, we do have two major world countries which haven't picked a side yet, and that is being Russia and India. Now, Russia in this scenario, war is no more, so what does Russia do? I'm not saying that their main drive and focus in real life is war. That's not true at all. But it does make it interesting for Russia because they are, of course, they're not Chinese allied, but they're very friendly with the Chinese. They don't like the West in real life. But, there's really no reason to hate each other anymore. There's only going to be diversity in terms of economical leagues and economical ways. How you do economies. Is it like a free market economy like what the purple team is doing? Or is it more of a controlled economy like what the red team is doing? Or is it more of a mixture of both like what the green team is doing? It really comes down to how your government is run and who your previous relations were in order for you to join these alliances. And for Russia, it would make more sense for them to join the red team. But I honestly think that Russia would stay away from these economical alliances and kind of do what the United States did in World War II and World War I and go into isolationism, which is basically you trade with who you have to trade with, but in terms of like messing with other people. You just stick to yourself and you work on yourself and you build up yourself. And I believe that Russia would honestly do that in real life. That is if war no longer existed. So, I mean, it's unlikely. But we do actually have a union breaking out between Belarus and Russia, and this is probably for the better good of both countries. First of all, Russia gets a little bit closer to Kaliningrad, and I'm sure that they could work something out with Poland and Lithuania in order to allow for the transportation, or I should say, the better transportation of stuff between Kaliningrad and Russia. And, you know, I honestly think that Russia would probably work on relations with a little bit of everybody in order to make themselves, I guess, make themselves more presentable? That's not the right word. I don't know. Anyway, as for India, they would not join the red team. India and China do not like each other, and I'm sure they could work on their relations in this timeline. Now, I know some of you are going to bring up BRICS. BRICS is a very unique case where India and China work together, and that's because it's solely for economics. If Pakistan was in BRICS in real life, I doubt that India would be in it. But here we have Pakistan and Afghanistan and China all in an alliance in which India would not join. So India is more so probably pushing towards the purple team, but they kind of fall into the category of free market and the semi-controlled market. Anyway, now we have, well, probably the biggest event taking place in this video so far, and that is the unification between the United States and Canada. Now, this is kind of going a little bit away from realism in terms of what would happen in real life, so I guess if you wanted to end the video now, you could. So this would be what would happen in real life if war didn't exist, right here, minus the missing border over here. But we're gonna, you know, this is the AdizzPro channel, so we're gonna take a little bit of realism out of it, and we're gonna start doing our own thing. And the United States and Canada unite together into one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's seared in my brain. Thanks, elementary school. Anyway, yeah, the U.S. and Canada form together into is probably just America, or the United States of North America, something like that. And the Bahamas will join this union because the Bahamas, they're pretty sure they're a country. Yes, it is. They'll join the United States of North America. And now over here to Asia. I don't know why I came over here. Nothing's happening. But with war no longer being a thing, I think over the next couple of decades, maybe centuries, we would see that borders would just slowly start to disappear as people would start to, you know, if there's no war, there's no need for, I don't want to say there's no need for hate, because hate is impossible to get rid of. But if you can't fight a war with someone you hate, you gotta learn to love them, right? And borders in Europe would probably slowly start to disappear as countries would just slowly start to merge together. You know, Western Europe is, or I guess this part of Europe, is the most likely example of that. You know, Czechia could get merged into that, as well as Denmark. And there's a lot of countries that wouldn't want to give up their nationality. And there's a lot of countries which wouldn't give up their identity, and, you know, that's just nationality for you. But there are a lot of countries which just kind of work together better. Albania and Kosovo, for example, Romania and Moldova, even Costa Rica and Panama. Australia and New Zealand could bundle together into a union. And really, there's no real limit as to what could happen with these countries. So over here in Central Africa, let's have a union happen between Chad and Niger. We'll throw in Mali, as well as Burkina Faso. Let's go ahead and say that Mauritania joins in on this. And I know that the Western Sahara area is kind of confusing, but we'll go ahead and put that into the yellow team, or well, this is more like lime. Tennis ball team, we'll put it on the tennis ball team. Maybe Eritrea and Sudan join in on this union. And honestly, I don't know about North Africa, because North Africa is a lot stronger than these central countries which are uniting. But who knows, maybe Libya joins in on this. I doubt that Algeria, Egypt, and Tunisia would want to join, but you know, the option is there. Maybe Djibouti joins as well, and maybe Somalia. I don't know. They're kind of all the way over here, though. Nothing you can do about it, though, because, you know, Ethiopia is in the way. But like I said, nothing you can do about it because war, nope, doesn't exist anymore. Maybe the UAE and Oman join together. Jordan and Saudi Arabia. I mean, really, anything's possible. Lebanon and Syria. I'm not really sure in terms of unifications what could happen with the red team, so let's just leave them alone. And really at this point we can start to fast forward into the future, like a couple hundred years. So no catastrophic event could occur in which humanity would be not wiped out. In real life that's a possibility, unfortunately, but in this timeline there is no such thing. And if we look like maybe 100 to 200 years in the future, technology is absolutely insane. War has not held back the human race, and well, we're able to do amazing things which we wouldn't be able to do before this. And one of the most notable things which has occurred is the unification of the purple countries in Europe. And with technology advancing, it is without a doubt that travel would be 100 times easier. And with the easier travel, you have people moving around more often, people living in different countries, countries just being able to function a lot better. And with that better functionality, it is fairly likely that Europe would just unite into one big country. And now I know that like there's a bunch of different ethnicities, different races, different reasons that people don't like each other because of past wars, but we're talking 300 years in the future. We're talking 300 years without war. 300 years without war will more than certainly allow for people to forget about war, unless this is some kind of Attack on Titan shit where there's like hatred towards one race for hundreds and hundreds of years. If you get the reference, you get the reference. But yeah, Europe pretty much merges into what is now known as just Europe. In the Americas, Mexico joins the United North American States, and now it is basically just known as North America, and minus Central America, because I mean they, you know what, let's just throw them in there anyway. They join together, and really there's only one paint over here now, which is Nicaragua. Can't do anything about that though. Dominican Republic, Haiti, they join, as well as Cuba, Trinidad, Tobago, all of these weird islands, Barbados, and whatever they're called. I had a moment there. Even over here in Africa, I mean, it is more than likely, it's more likely these countries would merge together, I feel like, than it is that European countries would merge together. And that could be, thanks to the British for doing bad things here. I mean, technically they were already united under one with Britain, so maybe not. Maybe they hated that so much that they would never do this again. But there is such thing known as the East African Confederation, which I know also includes the DRC. So maybe I'm just talking a bunch of blabberish. I'm yapping too much. That's what it is. Malawi joins this because why not? And now the World Economical Union is ruled by pretty much 4 large parties, being the North Americans, the Europeans, the Africans or the Southeast Africans, and the Oceanians. There's also some other countries like Morocco, Georgia, Armenia, Colombia, Ecuador, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay. I mean, you can see them. And basically what this is going to do is this is basically going to influence the world to pretty much, either join Western economics or don't join Western economics. And what I mean by that is that, like, if you're running an organization, like for say the orange team here, they have fairly similar economics to the purple team, minus Vietnam, then you should just go ahead and join the purple team because it's better for you. So these guys joined the purple team minus Vietnam, but Vietnam, 300 years, you might have written out communism by now. So they joined in on the purple team. These oceanic islands, they're forced in. Well, I don't want to say they're forced in because that doesn't seem right. But over here in Africa, we have African unionism becoming a very popular idea with Nigeria, Cameroon, Central African Republic, and a lot of these countries over here in the Southwest joining in on this alliance. Basically with the idea of uniting a big Africa one day. More and more countries start to join this, while the remainder of countries in Southern Africa are opting in for the purple team. So now Africa is completely decked out with color, mostly being the yellow team, but also the purple team there. Ethiopia has a little bit of influence, that being from China. And at this point, we still have 3 main dormant countries, being Russia, Turkey, and India. And at this point, it's very hard to predict what they would do. It's 300 years in the future from the last war, which would have been like the Russia-Ukraine war or the Israel-Palestine war. And since then, these guys have probably completely changed their identities. They're probably friendly with every single country in the world. There's probably really no such thing as hatred towards any other countries in the world. So like xenophobia has been completely written out. And really there's only like a rivalry between the purple red team. I'm pretty sure the blue team just kind of chilled everyone, same with the yellow team. But for Russia, Turkey, and India, they just remain neutral. They really don't have a point in joining any of these economical alliances as I see it, but who knows what they do in 300 years. Maybe India joins in on the red team, maybe Russia joins the purple team. It really could be anything. But going even further into the future, we have the yellow team uniting into one ginormous country. We're now 400 years past the last war. North Africa is completely united into just, well, I don't know what this would actually be called. Probably be called something like, I don't know. I would say North Africa because, North Africa. But then there's also this, so maybe like North Africa plus Arabia. The NAA. Who knows? But something similar happens in Southern Africa, with all of them uniting into one big country, which is just known as South Africa. Not this South Africa, though. So now the world is basically just unified into one big chunk of different colors. Lovely. We finally see some unifications happening on the red team, being between Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand, as well as Myanmar. And this is a pretty significant one, mostly because it's part of the red team. The red team before that didn't really have much of these unifications. We can also maybe see one between Mongolia and China. I don't know how likely that is though, but you never know. This is really far into the future. Maybe Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan unite into one. Maybe the Spanish speaking parts of the blue team unite into one. But also on the topic of language, it would be interesting to see what would happen because of this, because no longer do you have large, well, I don't want to say large influences, but you don't have like Russia invading Ukraine and taking over Crimea, for example. Well, Crimea was also already a lot of Russian, but there was a lot of Russians that moved there after that happened, so Crimea became a lot very heavily Russian speaking. But without war, that would happen on a smaller scale. So maybe languages have become a lot more domesticated. Like English has become very domesticated in the northern part of North America. Like maybe French isn't as popular as it is now. But Spanish, I doubt you can get rid of that because that's such a very wide spoken language in the Americas. Arabic is probably the language of the yellow team, even though like down here, some of these countries don't speak Arabic, but they probably are most likely, I don't want to say being forced to, but they're being influenced to because of the large Arabic speaking population over here. I don't even want to know how popular Mandarin is. It probably is just like the main language of the red team. But then again, China has so many different dialects of Chinese, so but I mean Mandarin is the most popular one, so maybe these guys down here, they have kind of like a Mandarin dialect mixed in with their own languages. But maybe the complete opposite has happened. Maybe I'm completely wrong and there's one universal language now, and it's some form of a mixture between English, Chinese, and Spanish and Arabic. Portuguese and Spanish are similar languages, so they could probably merge into their own thing, even more likely with Brazil and these guys being in an alliance together. So really you get English, you get Spanish plus Portuguese. So this symbol thing, let me try that again. There's our symbol for Portuguese Spanish. It's basically just a B. We get Arabic and we get Mandarin in that. We get, what would this sound like? Probably be like sps or something like that. So Islam, that's our new language of the world. And there's probably like another major language I'm forgetting, like of course there's French, there's German, all these different languages. Well, these guys can all mix into one language, which would just be like European. So yeah, that's our new world language. We're not even gonna talk about all the other languages in the world, like in India and yeah. So that's off topic, that's crazy. But anyway, this is our world map 400 years in the future with no war. Would it look like this? No, because it's impossible to predict the future. If you can predict the future, please hit me up because I want to know what happens. But yeah, you can interpret this to your own version. You can make your own scenario with this, because once again, it's the future. It's hard to tell what would happen, but a future without war could lead the world to look something like this. More unifications, maybe a universal language or more domesticated languages, a smaller amount of languages, but like a big number of people speaking them in a certain area of the world. I think that's more likely than a universal language. We would see economical unions. We would see, of course, no more fighting between militaries, and we would see hate slowly start to dwindle away and more of a unionism. And maybe even we would see the world unite into one global country in which everyone just kind of does their own thing. That's extremely unlikely though, because in real life, war is a thing, hate is a thing, and there really is no vow renouncing it. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to show some support by liking it, subscribing to the channel if you are new, leaving a comment with your video ideas. You can share this video with anyone who might be interested in it. You can become a member of the channel for whatever reason you would want to be. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. And of course, thank you to all the super fans, which include Matthew Newman, Yam, Kali Speaks Plays, Shadow Gamer Z, Deva Edits, Mr. Bonk 7, Hammer Toad 45, Patrick Clauser, Connor the Gamer, Texan Cowboy Cheese, Poland Country Ball, Yakko, Nevada Garbage Trucks, DW Cool Dude, Soviet Ball, and Serminator. Once again, thank you guys.